The royal capital of Zatheria was brighter than ever before. Silver towers reached the clouds, and glowing banners floated across the sky. Every street was filled with excitement and gossip. Because today was a day no one thought would ever come, the day their mighty queen, Sarathia Valen, was to marry a human. Humans were almost unknown across the alien empires. Many called them a weak and forgotten race from a small blue planet on the edge of space. Yet this human, Daniel Hale, had done something no one else could. Months ago, he had saved the queen during a battle that could have ended her life. He had no armor, no great weapon, and no army, only courage and quick thinking. He had carried the wounded queen from the burning field and refused any reward afterward. That act had shaken the hearts of even the coldest generals. Now, same quiet human was to become the royal groom. Inside the palace, Sarathia stood before a mirror made of crystal. Her reflection showed beauty and strength, silver skin, violet eyes, and the tall crown of Zitherus monarchs. Yet behind that calm face, her mind was full of questions. Why had she agreed to this marriage? Was it only to honor the man who saved her life? Or was there something deeper that she did not want to admit? Her advisor, Lady Mira, entered the chamber. "Your Majesty," she said softly, "the council still disagrees. They believe a human husband is beneath the royal line." Sarathia sighed. "Let them disagree. A true ruler chooses with her own heart, not with their fears." "But do you trust him?" Myra asked. Sarathia looked out toward the balcony, where Daniel was standing below in the palace garden. He was simple in appearance, tall but lean, with calm blue eyes and short brown hair. He wore the traditional silver robes of a royal groom, but he looked uncomfortable in them. The alien guests whispered and laughed quietly behind their masks. They saw him as fragile, nothing more than decoration beside their powerful queen. "I trust what I saw," Sarathia finally said. "He faced death to protect a stranger. That means more to me than bloodlines or politics." Down in the garden, Daniel felt every eye on him. He was used to that now. Since his arrival on Zatheria, he had been watched, studied, and measured by every noble in the empire. To them he was an oddity, a creature from a violent world who somehow lived without fear among them. But he stayed quiet, observing everything. The air smelled of metal and flowers. The gravity was heavier than Earth's, but he had adapted quickly. His mind, however, was somewhere else. He still remembered the war. He remembered Sarathia lying wounded, her guards fallen, and the burning sky above them. He had carried her through enemy fire and hidden her in the ruins until rescue arrived. That day changed everything for him. When she later asked what he wanted as a reward, he had surprised her by saying, "Peace, not for me, but for your people." He was part of that peace, though he never imagined it would lead to marriage. The ceremony began at sunset. The great hall was filled with light and music. Hundreds of alien nobles in glittering armor stood in perfect lines, their expressions unreadable. The queen walked slowly down the aisle of floating glass, her gown shining like starlight. Daniel waited at the end, standing still but steady. When she reached him, the entire hall went silent. The high priest began the ritual in the ancient tongue of Zatheria. Sarathia placed her hand on Daniel's chest, where his heart beat calmly. He did the same, following her lead. The crystal rings glowed, recording their union in light. But just as the final words were spoken, a deep rumble shook the palace. The walls trembled. The banners above twisted in the sudden wind. Guards ran to the windows. From the sky came the sound of distant explosions. The palace defense alarm started to wail, a sound no one had heard in decades. Sarathia's eyes widened. That sound? It can't be. An officer rushed forward, bowing low. "Your Majesty, it's Kathia. The exiled warlord has returned. His ships are entering orbit. They demand surrender." Gasps filled the hall. Kathir was her cousin, once a general, now a traitor. He had been banished years ago for his hunger for power. No one expected him to return, much less on the queen's wedding day. Before Sarathia could speak, a blast hit the outer walls. The entire chamber shook. Noble guests screamed and ran for cover. The guards activated their shields. Daniel's voice cut through the panic. "Get the civilians to safety," he shouted. The queen turned in surprise. "You will come with me," but he was already moving. With swift, sure steps, he ran toward the sound of battle. 2 guards tried to stop him, but Sarathia raised her hand. Something in his calm expression made her let him go. The corridors of the palace were chaos. Enemy drones broke through the windows, firing bright plasma bolts. Daniel grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, a long staff of energy, and moved with precision that shocked everyone around him. He blocked shots, rolled between pillars, and struck down the attackers with perfect timing. His movements were fast and controlled, as if he had trained his whole life for this moment. Sarathia followed with her elite guards, watching from a distance. She saw him leap onto a drone, tear off its power core, and use it to overload another. Every motion was calculated. There was no fear in his eyes, only focus. When the last drone fell, the smoke cleared. The floor was scorched, but Daniel stood unharmed, breathing hard. For the first time, faint lines of light pulsed under his skin, soft blue marks that glowed for a few seconds before fading. The guards stared. "Is that human?" one whispered. Sarathia stepped forward slowly. "Daniel," she said carefully, "what did I just see?" He looked at his hands, the light fading from his veins. "Something I hoped I would never need to use," he said quietly. The queen approached him, her voice lower now. "You are not an ordinary human, are you?" Daniel didn't answer at first. He placed the weapon down gently. "Humans came from a world that forgot its past," he said. "But some of us still carry memories, old instincts, old codes, things even we don't fully understand." Before she could question more, the palace lights flickered again. An image appeared in the air, a transmission from Kathir's flagship. The warlord's cruel face filled the hall. "My dear cousin," Kathir said, his voice echoing with mockery. "A wedding. How touching. I will make sure it is remembered as the day your rule ended." Sarada stood tall. "You will not touch my people, Kathir. Turn back, and I will show mercy." "Mercy? You married a fragile creature from a dirt planet? Do you think that will save you? When I take your throne, I will show your people what real strength looks like." Daniel stepped beside her, calm but firm. "Strength isn't what you think it is." Kathir's grin vanished. "And who are you, little man?" Her husband Daniel said simply. Kathir burst into cruel laughter. "Then you'll die first." The screen went dark. Outside, explosions shook the horizon again. The queen turned to her guards. "Ready the royal defense line. Get every ship in the sky." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let me go to the main defense tower. I can help." "You've already done enough," she said, trying to keep control. "You're not trained for this kind of war." He looked straight into her eyes. "With respect, Your Majesty, I know things about war that your people have forgotten." There was no arrogance in his tone, only certainty. For a moment, Sarathia hesitated, then nodded. "Very well, but you will not fight alone." They moved through the palace tunnels to the old defense station, an ancient structure built long before Sarathia's time. Most of its systems had been silent for generations. Her engineers had tried many times to activate them, but they always failed. The technology was older than their civilization. When Daniel entered, the lights flickered as if recognizing him. He stepped toward the central console, ignoring the surprised looks from the alien technicians. "What are you doing?" Sarathia asked. "Listening," he murmured. "These systems. They were made by someone who understood human code. It's familiar." He placed his hand on the console. A soft blue light spread from his palm across the entire room. The ancient machines came alive. Screens lit up, defense cannons aligned, and the planetary shields rose like a dome of light over the capital. The technicians stared in disbelief. One of them whispered, "That's impossible. Only a progenitor can do that." Sarathia looked at Daniel with awe. "How do you know their systems?" He turned slightly. "Because my ancestors built part of them. Long ago, humans and your kind were not strangers. We fought side by side and we paid a heavy price." She felt a chill. Then, you are one of their descendants? Daniel didn't deny it. Maybe, but right now, that doesn't matter. Kathir's fleet will break orbit in minutes. We have to hold the line. The queen nodded, shaking off her shock. You heard him. She commanded her officers. Prepare every gun, every ship. As they worked, Daniel stayed near the console, reading strange symbols that only he seemed to understand. His calm voice guided the operators. Redirect power to the eastern shield. Good. Now target grid 7 with phase cannons. Perfect. Within minutes, the planet's old defenses hummed with power, brighter than ever. Outside, the enemy fleet began to descend, filling the night sky with streaks of red fire. The battle for Zetheria had begun. Through the windows, Sarathia saw her people fighting bravely. Yet her eyes kept returning to the human beside her, the man everyone had called weak. He worked with quiet confidence, his fingers moving over controls that responded only to him. There was no fear, only purpose. The sky over Zetheria was a mix of red and silver light, glowing with explosions and the energy of defensive shields. From the royal palace, Queen Sarathia watched as her human husband, Daniel Hale, moved across the battlefield with calm determination. The fleet of Kathir, her exiled cousin, had landed thousands of troops on the northern plains. Their warships orbited above, firing energy beams that set forests and mountains on fire, yet Daniel moved as though he was born for this moment. His steps were light but purposeful. When enemy drones swarmed toward him, he leaped onto a hovering transport and pulled the drone down with a precise twist of his wrist. Sparks flew, and the drone crashed in a heap of metal. Alien soldiers around him stopped and stared. They had seen many warriors in battle, but none like this human. Sarathia's heart pounded. She had been trained to expect power to measure strength and size, speed, and weapons. But Daniel's strength was different. It was invisible yet undeniable. It was in his instincts, his awareness, and his courage. Your Majesty, one of her generals said, bowing slightly, this human. He moves with skill beyond any soldier we know. It is remarkable. Sarathia did not reply. Her eyes followed Daniel as he reached the old planetary defense tower, a structure built before even her ancestors could remember. Most of the tower's mechanisms had been dormant for centuries, but Daniel approached it with a familiarity that startled the technicians present. He touched the console, and immediately the ancient system stirred. Lights flickered, screens hummed, and energy lines ran across the walls as if waking from a long sleep. Daniel's hands moved across controls with the ease of someone who had done this before. Though no human had ever touched these alien devices, the planetary shield strengthened. Massive towers of energy rose from the ground, glowing with a light that painted the sky. The enemy fleet fired again, but every shot was absorbed or deflected harmlessly. The aliens watching could not believe their eyes. One technician whispered, "I have read every archive. Only a progenitor could operate these systems. And yet, he is human." Sarathia's lips parted. He is. More than human, she admitted quietly to herself. Daniel did not stop. He opened communications with the approaching fleet. His voice, calm but commanding, carried across the battlefield. Kathiri said, "I suggest you leave now. Your war ends here, or you face complete defeat." The warlord laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the city. "You, a human. You dare command me?" Daniel's reply was steady. "I do not ask. I warned the first wave of enemy troops reached the planetary surface. They were heavily armed and their energy weapons glowed with lethal intent." Daniel raised his hand slightly, and the towers of energy responded. Instead of destroying the troops, the towers disabled their weapons, sending arcs of harmless blue sparks into the ground. Soldiers fell to their knees, confused but alive. Sarathia gasped. "He is not killing them," she said to herself. "He is showing mercy and strength." Her mind raced. Humans had always been underestimated. To the alien empires, they were weak and fragile, incapable of war on a grand scale. Yet here was one human, single-handedly standing against an army and a fleet, Wielding power that her own people had lost knowledge of, the battle intensified. Kathir's flagship fired directly at the defense towers. The shields absorbed the energy, glowing brighter with each hit. Daniel placed both hands on the console, and a faint light spread through his veins. It pulsed in time with his heartbeat. Reaching out to the old towers and connecting them like a network, Saravia watched in awe as he moved. He did not touch each machine individually, his presence alone activated them. It was as though the systems recognized him, responding to something deep within his being. She had studied every detail of her empire's technology, but nothing had ever prepared her for this. Daniel's calm focus inspired the soldiers. Those who had been panicked or frozen now moved with purpose. Zetheria's army, those smaller, coordinated with precision. They were guided not only by the technology, but by the quiet authority of the human at the center. Kathia's voice boomed through the coms again. Your shield may hold for a moment, but it cannot stop my fleet forever. Surrender now, and I may show mercy. Daniel's eyes glowed faintly blue. Mercy is not a weapon, Kathir. Strength is measured by what you protect, not what you destroy. At! The warlord snarled in frustration. His fleet intensified the assault, and a massive energy beam struck near the palace. Buildings shook, and the ground quaked. Saravia gripped the balcony railing, fearing for her people. But then, a wave of energy shot from the towers across the plains, intercepting the beam. It split harmlessly in the air, and the sky lit up with brilliant arcs of controlled energy. Daniel's hands moved across the console with speed and accuracy. Every motion was calm, almost effortless. The enemy fleet faltered, unable to adjust to the unpredictable yet precise defense. Alien soldiers whispered among themselves, astonished. He is rewriting the battle, one muttered. Even Sarathia's most trusted generals were silent. Watching the human operate like a conductor controlling an entire symphony of war machines, the queen realized something important. Daniel was not only strong, but he understood balance. Every action he took was measured to protect life, not destroy it. He had the power to end the war in minutes, yet he spared the soldiers, turning their attacks harmless instead of lethal. For the first time, she felt something deeper than admiration. She felt respect, trust, and a stirring of emotion she had never admitted before. This human was unlike any creature she had ever known, strong, wise, and full of courage. The battle reached the plains outside the capital. Kathir's troops advanced, but Daniel moved among them like a shadow, appearing where he was needed most. When he raised his hands, the ancient towers responded, creating walls of energy that stopped enemy vehicles in midair. When a squad of soldiers tried to climb the palace walls, a soft pulse of force gently pushed them back, leaving them unharmed. The human's instinctive understanding of protection guided every action. He was a warrior, yes, but also a guardian. Every move, every command. Every touch of the ancient system was designed to minimize harm while maximizing control. Saravia stepped closer to the window. Her violet eyes were wide with amazement. I have never seen such power, or such mercy, she whispered. Daniel did not pause. From the palace balcony, she could see him move toward Kathir's command center. The human alone, against the warlord's forces, and yet he seemed calm, confident, almost unstoppable. She wanted to call him back, to insist he take cover. But something told her it was his way. Daniel did not run from danger. He faced it, not with anger or pride, but with purpose and care. A sudden blast rocked the area near the command center. Daniel fell to one knee, shielding himself with a wave of energy. The blast dispersed harmlessly, and he rose immediately, unharmed. His light glowed stronger now, as if the systems themselves were lending him power. Sarazia felt a chill. The stories of the progenitors, ancient beings who had shaped both humans and Zetherians, came to her mind. Could it be possible that he was a descendant? That he carried within him the strength of an ancient civilization lost to time? Kathir's voice boomed again, desperate now. You are human. You cannot do this. Daniel did not answer verbally. Instead, He moved his hand across the console, and a network of energy rings appeared in orbit. They expanded and connected, forming a barrier that encompassed the entire northern plain. Energy flowed through him into the machines, and then outward, disabling every weapon in the enemy camps without harming a single soldier. The alien council gasped. They had not seen such control in centuries. Even Cerethia's own generals could not believe their eyes. Finally, the warlord's fleet faltered. Their ships floated helplessly, weapons dead, soldiers disarmed. Daniel stepped back from the console, exhausted but steady. His hands glowed faintly, then returned to normal. Cerethia ran to him, fear and relief flooding her at once. "You've saved the planet," she said. He shook his head gently. "Not me alone. Your people fought bravely, and the systems helped. I only guided them." The queen felt a wave of emotion she had never known. Pride, gratitude, and something deeper, admiration, perhaps even love. This human, so small and quiet, had done what her entire empire could not. And he did it not for glory, not for recognition, because it was the right thing to do. Kathir's forces retreated, silent and powerless. The queen's people cheered, but Cerethia's eyes never left Daniel. She finally understood true strength did not come from size or weaponry. It came from courage, wisdom, and compassion. And Daniel Hale had all of these in abundance. As the sun rose over the horizon, the sky cleared of fire and smoke, the planet had survived. Thanks to one human who showed that even the smallest beings could hold the might of the stars. Cerethia approached him again. "Daniel," she said softly, placing her hand over his, "I thought I knew what strength was, but now I see. It is not in ruling or fighting. It is in protecting, guiding, and holding to what is right. You have shown me that." Daniel smiled faintly, tired but calm. "And you showed me trust and hope. We needed each other to save this world." For the first time, the queen saw the human not just as a savior, but as her partner, equal in every way. Together, they had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious.